dear students. So today I am going to start assembler chapter. So here you will study the functions of assembler, followed by the data structures which are created and used by the assembler. So algorithms for pass 1 and pass 2 of an assembler. This followed by machine dependent and machine dependent and independent assembler features. So we'll start the assembler. Okay. So remember, you will study assembler for simplified instructional computer. You will study assembler for simplified instructional computer. What is assembler? Assembler is a system software. Assembler is basically a system software. So assembler is a set of programs which convert source program to object program. Assembler converts source program to object program. What is source program? Source program is a program in assembly level language. Source program is a program in assembly level language. And object program is a program in machine level language. Okay. So we can say assembler is a system software which converts assembly level language program into equivalent machine level language program. Assembler is basically a system software which converts assembly level language program into the equivalent machine level language program. So first we will see a sample assembly language program. Just see. So this is the sample assembly level language program. Okay, this is the sample assembly level language program. This part, these three columns. Okay, the program starts here and it ends here. Okay, this is the assembly language program for SIC assembler. For SIC assembler. So you know assembler converts assembly level language program to object code. This is the object code. So object code will be something like this. See here. This part is the object code. This part is the object code. Okay, object code. The output of the assembly level, the output of assembler is object code, something like this. Or in more clearly, the output will be in the form of an object code like this. So three types of records are created in the object code. Okay, one is header record. This is the header record. First line is the header record. Okay, next text record. Text records. Text record. So these are all lines or the text records of the object code. And the last instruction is end record. Okay, so this is the object code of the this is the output of the assembler, which is object program in the form of header record, text record and end record. Okay, so so observe this assembly level language program. Okay, so this second field, so the middle field. So this middle field is called mnemonic opcode. What this second field called? Mnemonic opcode. See here, mnemonic operation code. See here, mnemonic operation code. What is mnemonic operation code? These are the mnemonic operation code. These are the mnemonic operation code. Mnemonic operation code. Okay. So there are two types of right. So base and this first field. So first field is called label field. So we can classify the assembly language program into three fields here. This is the label field. This first column is the label field. So second column is mnemonic opcode field, and third column is operand field. Okay, I repeat. First field is label field. Second field is mnemonic opcode field, and the third field is operand field. Okay. So whatever names appear in the label field, they are called symbols. Whatever names appear in the label field are called symbols. So copy, first, C loop, end fill, etc. So these are the names that are appearing in the label field. So all these names are called symbols. Okay. Next, second column is mnemonic opcodes. Okay. Mnemonic opcodes can be classified into two types. So first type is assembler directives. And second type is executable instructions. Executable mnemonics. Executable instructions. Okay. Mnemonic opcode are classified into, so first one is assembler directives, and second one is executable instructions. Examples for assembler directives are start. Example for assembler directives are start, next, end. Okay. Next, you have byte, word, reserve word, reserve byte. Okay. So these are the examples of assembler directives. So which are the examples for assembler directives? Start, next, end, next, byte, word, reserve byte, reserve word. These are the examples of assembler directives. So why they are called assembler directives? The name itself tells, assembler directives. So these instructions will instruct the assembler. These instructions will provide information to the assembler. Okay. Why they are called assembler directives? These directives provide instruction to the assembler. These to do something. These directives provide information to the assembler. So assembler directives, these are the statements that direct the assembler to perform a specific task. Assembler directives, these are the statements here. These are the assembler directives, I already said. Okay, these assembler directives are the statements that direct the assembler to perform a specific task. These statements may also provide some information to the assembler. These statements may also provide some information to the assembler. Okay. For example, so we see one by one. Start. Start is an assembler directive. Okay. So this assembler directive provide the name of the program and the starting address of the program to the assembler. I said assembler directive provide information to the assembler. Assembler directive give instruction to the assembler. They also provide information to the assembler. So you see start is an assembler directive. Okay, so you see the first line. So copy is the name of the program. So this program will read the data from an input device to the buffer, and from buffer to the output device. So this program will copy the data from input device to the output device. That is why the name copy. Copy is the name of the program. This is the first line of the program. Okay, 1000 is the starting address of the program. So start is assembler directive. So it provides the name of the program, which is copy, to the assembler. It also provides the starting address of the program to the assembler. So start is an assembler directive. It provides the name of the program, which is copy, and starting address of the program to the assembler. Okay, next end. End is an assembler directive. It indicates the end of the program to the assembler. I said assembler directive give information to the assembler. Okay, so end is an assembler directive. It's a mnemonic. It's an instruction. Okay, end is an assembler directive. Okay, it gives information regarding the end of the program to the assembler. It is the last statement of the program. End is the last statement of the program. It optionally specifies the first executable instruction in the program. It optionally specifies the first executable instruction in the program. End first. First is the label for the first executable instruction in the program. First is the label for the first executable instruction in the program. See here, first. STL is the first executable instruction. Okay, end first. First means it also gives the first executable. It also gives the label for the first. It also provides the label that contains first executable instruction in the program. Okay, so right, first, this is the first executable instruction in the program. So I said start, end, and it is finished. Next, byte. Byte is an assembler directive. Byte is an assembler directive. Okay. Okay. It gives instruction to the assembler to reserve 1 byte of data. Byte is an assembler directive. It gives instruction to the assembler to reserve 1 byte of data. 1 byte means 8-bit. Okay. It can also be used to assign a constant value, a character value. So this instruction can also be used to assign a character value. See here, character value. So another use of byte is it provides a symbolic name. It provides a symbolic name for the constant value. So byte instruction instruct the assembler to reserve 1 byte of data area. Okay, so this instruction can also be used to assign the character data to the allocated area. This instruction can also be used to provide a symbolic name for the constant EOF, right? So here this is this statement, see, EOF byte C character EOF. So this instruction will reserve 1 byte of data area. This instruction will reserve 1 byte of data area, right? So next, the character EOF will be assigned to the data area. The character EOF will be assigned to the data area, and the symbolic name EOF will be assigned to the constant this data, character data. The symbolic name EOF is assigned to the character data. So whenever EOF appears in the program, so already defined data will be substituted. So byte can also be used to provide symbolic name for the constant value. So whenever the symbolic name, say EOF, is specified, the constant value is substituted. Understood? Okay. Right? See here. I think you have understood about byte. See here one more example. Here byte. So input byte x f1. This instruction will reserve 1 byte of data area. Okay. This instruction will reserve 1 byte of data area to store the device number, to store the input to device number, to store the input to device number. So 1 byte of data area will be reserved. Okay. Next, see byte. Okay. Next, x f1. That means memory, 1 byte of memory is already reserved. So that the data f1 will be assigned to the allocated area. The data f1 will be allocated to the data area. Hexadecimal value. X means hexadecimal value. Hexadecimal value is assigned to the data area, right? So f1 is the input device number. F1 is the device number for input device. F1 is the device number for the input device. So input is the symbolic name for the constant value, device number f1. Input is a symbolic name for the constant value f1. Okay, right? Whenever symbolic name appears in the program, the constant value f1 will be substituted. Whenever symbolic name appears, the constant value f1 will be substituted. Okay, this is about byte. Similarly, word. See, so word, see here, word. So word is an assembler directive. It instructs the assembler to reserve 1 word of data area in the memory. Word is an assembler directive. It instructs the assembler to reserve 1 word of data area in the memory. You know, 1 word is 3 bytes, isn't it? 3 consecutive bytes, 3 consecutive memory locations. 3 consecutive memory locations form 1 word. If you want to store one integer value, in 1 word is required. 3 consecutive memory locations are required. If you want to store one integer value, 1 word of area is memory is required. 3 consecutive memory locations is required. So this word assembler directive will reserve 1 word of data area. 3 consecutive memory locations will be reserved. Okay. So after that, whatever value assigned, 4096 integer value 4096 will be assigned to that word. 3 consecutive memory locations. Whatever value is 4096. This integer value is assigned to the three consecutive memory locations. Each integer value occupies one word. Three consecutive memory locations. Max len is the label for the memory location. Max len is a symbolic name or label for the memory location. So whenever max len appears in the program, so the already defined value 4096 will be substituted. Whenever max len appears in the program, already defined value 4096 will be substituted. So in case of this, so tix max len. So here what happens? The index register X will be compared with 4096. 4096 will be substituted in place of max len. This is word. Next, reserve byte. Say here, reserve byte. Reserve byte RESB is an assembler directive. RESB, reserve byte, is an assembler directive. It gives instruction to the assembler to reserve a specified number of bytes of data area to store the data, character data normally. So reserve byte is an assembler directive. It instructs the assembler. It instructs the assembler to reserve specified number of bytes, specified number of memory locations to store the character data. For example, so this particular instruction will reserve with this instruction. So the assembler will reserve 4096 memory locations. 4096. With this, the assembler with this instruction, the assembler reserve 4096 byte of data area. The assembler will reserve 4096 memory locations. Okay, to store the character values. Okay, so buffer is the label for this memory location. It is just like an array name. So buffer is the label for the memory location. Okay, so this buffer also acts as a symbolic name for this for all these memory locations. This buffer will act as a symbolic name for all these 4096 memory locations. So whenever the symbolic name appears, the constant value will be substituted in the program. STA buffer. STA buffer means what? Store the content of accumulator into the buffer. Okay, store the content of accumulator into the buffer. Okay, into the starting address of the memory location. Next, reserve word. See here, reserve word. So reserve word is similar to reserve byte. The only difference is RESW, reserve word, is an assembler directive. It instructs the assembler to reserve specified number of words of data area. RESW is an assembler directive. It instructs the assembler to reserve specified number of words of data area. One word is 3 memory locations. One word is 3 consecutive bytes of area. So this instruction will reserve one word, only one word of data area. Okay, so the symbolic name is length here. The symbolic name is length here. Okay, so this is about assembler directives. Next, executable instructions. Okay, which are executable instructions? So here STL, okay, JSUB, LDA, compare, JEQ, jump if equal, jump to subroutine, jump unconditional jump, load to accumulator, store the content of accumulator to the memory location, load to accumulator, okay, STA, JSUB. So these instructions are called executable instructions. These instructions will result in the object code. All executable instructions normally result in the object code. So all executable instructions result in the object code. The start and end instructions will not result in an object code. Start and end instructions will not result in the object code. They will not Object code will not be produced for start and end instructions. So these are all executable instructions. The length of all these instructions is almost 3 bytes. The length of all these instructions is almost 3 bytes. Okay, right, right. So this instruction will read data from the input device. This instruction, okay. So here the main routine will call the subroutine readrec. Here the main routine will call the subroutine readrec to read record from the input device. The main program will, with the help of JSUB means jump to subroutine, call the subroutine readrec or RDREC to read record from the input device. So readrec program is this one. This part is the readrec subroutine. This part is readrec subroutine. This part is readrec subroutine. So this will read record from the input device into the buffer. So this readrec subroutine will read record from the input device into the buffer. So later the program calls the subroutine WRREC JSUB. Later the calling program main program calls WRREC write rec. The main program calls the subroutine WRREC write rec to read records from the buffer, to read records from the buffer and write it to the output device. So this WRREC function is here. WRREC function is here. This is responsible for reading data from the buffer into the output device. Reading data from the buffer into the output device. Okay. Right. Okay. So here during a translation, the assembler creates the assembler make use of two data structures. Okay, the assembler will make use of two data structures during translation. During the process of translating this assembly level language program, during the process of translating this assembly level language program into the object code, okay, the assembler will make use of two data structures. So, okay, first one is symbol table, and the second one is operation code table. Okay. See here, assembler data structures. So during the process of translating the assembly language program to the object program, the assembler, okay, program, assembler a set of programs, right? So it creates one data structure, that is symbol table, okay, and it will make use of another data structure called uh, uh, operation code table or opcode table. Two data structures are used in during the translation process. Normally, some assemblers will take two passes, two sequential scans. Okay, right? Some assemblers will take two passes, two sequential scan of the assembly language program to translate it to the object code. Okay, so that two data structures are used. One is symbol table. See, symbol table. So this is the symbol table. Okay, so symbol table is a data structure that is created during pass 1 of an assembler. Symbol table is a data structure that is created during pass 1 of an assembler. Okay, so symbol table contains all the symbols that are present in the program. So I already said, in the assembly language program, whatever name appear in the label field, they are all called symbols, isn't it? So in the assembly language program, okay, all the symbols which are appearing in the label field, all symbols appearing in the left hand side field, all symbols appearing in the label field, that is left hand side field, they are all called symbols. Okay, as soon as the symbols are found, they are stored in the symbol table. As soon as the symbols are found, they are stored in the symbol table. Okay, right? See here, along with the address value. So symbol table contains symbol name and the corresponding location counter value. Location counter is similar to program counter. It keeps track of address of the instruction. Okay, location counter is similar to program counter. It keep track of the address of the current instruction. Okay, symbol table contains symbol name and the corresponding address of each symbol. So during pass 1, so whenever a symbol in the label field appears, immediately it is stored in the symbol table along with the equivalent location counter value. As soon as the symbol in the label field is found, so it will be stored in the symbol table along with the location counter value. Okay, so next, machine operation code table. So this is a static table that is already created. This is a static table that is already created. So assembler during pass 2 normally, and sometimes in pass 1 also, it will make use of this table, machine opcode table. So another data structure is called operation code table. I said that they are all called mnemonic opcodes, isn't it? I said all these are mnemonic opcodes, isn't it, right? So this data structure is called operation code table or opcode table, or simply optab. OP for operation opcode. Tab means table. Okay, so what an operation table code table contains? It contains all the mnemonic instructions, all the executable instructions, along with the equivalent machine code value, hexadecimal value, and the instruction length. What the machine code table contains is, it contains list of mnemonic opcodes that is recognized by the SIC, simplified instructional computer. So operation code table contains all the mnemonic opcodes, executable instructions. For each executable instructions, its equivalent machine code value, the machine language equivalent code. The machine language equivalent code for each mnemonic opcode is stored, and the instruction length. So STL instruction, its equivalent machine code is 14, instruction length is 3. So jump to subroutine, its machine code is 48 and instruction length is 3. For every instruction, equivalent hexadecimal opcode will be there. Machine language equivalent code will be there. I think you have understood these two data structures. Symbol table contains symbols and the corresponding address. And the operation code table contains mnemonic opcode, its equivalent machine code and the instruction length. Okay. Okay. Next, you have, I'm sorry. Okay. Right. So basically assembler performs two functions. Okay. So first function is assigning machine address to symbolic labels. Assigning machine address to symbolic labels. So assigning machine address to symbolic labels. So just now I have shown symbol table, no, right? Assigning machine address to symbolic labels. These are the symbolic labels. Okay. Assigning machine address location counter value to the symbolic labels. Assigning, the first task of an assembler is assigning the machine address, that is location counter value, to each of the symbols. I said this is the label field. All names appear in the label field, they are called symbols. The first task of the assembler is assigning the address, machine address value, memory location address, to each of the symbols. Okay, 1000 will be assigned to first, like that. 1003 will be assigned to C loop. Okay, and 102A, address 102A is assigned to the symbol EOF. 102D will be assigned to the 3. What a symbol table contains? The list of symbols. Symbol number 1, its value. Symbol number 2, its value. Symbol number 3, its value, address. Symbol number 4 and its address, and so on. This is what the symbol table contains. So first task is assigning machine address of the memory location to each symbols, and second task is translating the mnemonic opcodes to the equivalent machine language equivalent. So STL is a mnemonic opcode. Its equivalent machine language equivalent hexadecimal is 14. So second task of the assembler is to translate each mnemonic opcode to the machine language equivalent. It is the task of the assembler is to translate STL to 14, to translate JSUB to 48, LDA to 00, COMP to 28. So these are all these two digit numbers are the hexadecimal codes for each of these instructions. These two digits, first two digits, no, these are the hexadecimal codes, numbers for each of the machine language instructions. I think two tasks of the assembler we have understood. Okay, so two tasks of the assembler. So first one is assigning machine address to symbolic labels. Second one is translating mnemonic opcodes to their machine language equivalents. So assembler directives, I said, they are pseudo instructions. They provide instruction to the assembler. They are not translated into machine operation codes. So these are the assembler directives: start, end, byte, word, reserve word. Okay, right. So end of the record is indicated by a null character in the program. End of the record is indicated by null character. End of file is indicated by a zero length record. So this is a program. Okay. So here what will happen? STL, RETADR is a symbolic name. RETADR is a symbolic name. It will be assigned with an address. It will be assigned to the equivalent address. It will be assigned to the equivalent address 1033, right? So in POS2, whenever symbolic name appears, no, so 1033 will be substituted, because symbol table contains for each symbol during first pass for all these symbols, no, so equivalent address will be assigned, isn't it? During pass 1, so symbol table is created during pass 1. Okay, so for all these symbols the equivalent address will be assigned. So how actually what will happen? Okay, so STL means store the content of linkage register into this memory location 103. Store return address into this memory location, because the control is transferring to the subroutine, no, that is why this instruction is used. STL means store the content of linkage register. First program counter value will be assigned to this linkage register. Program, before the jump takes place, the content of program counter will be assigned to linkage register. The address specified in the program counter will be assigned to linkage register L. Okay, so store the content of linkage register into the memory location 1033. Okay, so JSUB, jump to the subroutine RDREC. Jump to the subroutine RDREC. So jump to the subroutine RDREC. Control will transfer to the subroutine. So return address will be stored in the linkage register. So LDX0. LDX is register X will be initialized with 0. So 0 is defined with the value 0. Okay? 0 is a symbolic name. So word is a directive. So one word of memory will be reserved, and integer value 0 will be assigned. So here also one word of memory will be reserved. The value 3 will be allocated. Okay, so one byte of memory will be allocated, and the value EOF will be assigned like this. So here what happens? RDREC. So load LDX 0 means assign initialize register X with 0. LDA 0. 0 means the value 0, right? I already just said, no, 0. One word of memory is allocated, integer value 0 is allocated. So with this instruction, one word of memory is allocated, the value 0 is assigned. Okay, understood? So see here, so register X and register A will be assigned to will be initialized to 0. Next, test device. So test device is instruction which will be used to test whether the input device is ready or not. Test device is an instruction used to test whether the input device is ready or not. We want to transfer data from input device to the buffer, isn't it? Test device. Which device you want to test? Input device. Symbolic name is there. Input device. So how it is defined? Input device. Input device byte. Every device comes with a device number. F1 is the device number for this particular input device. How you define input byte X? I already said how it will be. 1 byte of memory will be reserved. The value, hexadecimal value F1 will be assigned to that. So this data area will be labeled with input. So wherever input appears, so the device number F1 will be substituted. Test device number, input device F1. So I said this so TD instruction is used to test the device. So based on whether the input device, whether the device is ready or not, the status word register is initialized with the condition codes. Less than means the device is ready. If the status word register contains less than means that input device is ready. If the status word register contains the condition code equals to, then the device is not ready. So test device F1. So jump equal test, that is if the device is not ready, again loop. If the input device is not ready, again loop. Okay, if the device is ready, so if the status word register contains less than, so this proves false. Again read data from the input device into the rightmost byte of a register. So register is 3 bytes. Every register is 3 bytes. 3 boxes. Every register is 3 bytes. So read from the input device and store into the rightmost byte of a register. Okay. So compare the value with 0. Check whether register value is 0. Exit. If no value is read from the input device, exit. Otherwise, store the value that was in accumulator. Store the rightmost, store the character that was read, that was in the accumulator, into the buffer, whose address is this buffer. How to get the target address? The target address is obtained by adding the content of this register plus the address X. The content of this address, starting address, right, plus this. If you sum this, you will get the address. So the character will be loaded into that memory location. So TIX means increment the index register by 1 and test whether 4096 is reached. So we have to read 4000. Each record contains 4096 characters. Each record contains 4096 characters, right? So test TIX instruction will increment the index register and it will test whether it will be same as okay, right? Right. Jump if less than loop. So go on reading. Each time you read a character and store it into the buffer. So like this. Okay. If all the characters are read, return from the subroutine. Okay. So again write jump to the subroutine WR-REC to write whatever the data read to the output device. Whatever the data read to the output device. Okay. So here, right? So clear the index register, test the output device. Okay, test the output device. We have defined output device like this. So byte means 1 byte of memory will be allocated. So the value hexadecimal value 05 will be assigned. A symbolic name output will be allocated for that. Okay. Test output device. Jump if equal. If the device is not ready, status word register contains less than. If the device is that is if the device is ready, the status word register contains less than. If the device is not ready, status word register contains condition code equals. Jump if equals W loop. Otherwise, load the value that was in accumulator into the buffer. Load the value that was in accumulator into the buffer, whose address you will get by summing this. Okay. From the buffer, from the accumulator, write the value to the buffer, and from the buffer WD output means from the, so this instruction will write that data, right, to the output device. This instruction will write the data to the output device. Test the length of the instruction. Okay, right? Test whether the appropriate length is reached. So otherwise, go on reaching the reading the characters. Okay, written from the subroutine. Okay, so this instruction will read data from the input device into the buffer, and whatever the data read will be written into the output device. Okay. Next, pass one of an assembler. So equivalent comment lines are specified here. You can go through. So purpose of the example program. This program reads records from input device F1. This program will read records from the input device F1, copies them to the output device 05. At the end of the file, writes EOF character on the output device. At the end of the file, it writes EOF character on the output device, then R sub to the operating system. Okay, a buffer is used to store the record. Buffering is necessary for different input-output rates. The end of each record is marked with null character. The end of the file is indicated by 0 length record. So these two subroutines are called. So functions of an assembler. So convert mnemonic operation codes to the machine language equivalent. I already said convert mnemonic operation codes to the machine language equivalent. STL instruction is converted to equivalent 1.4 code. Convert symbolic operands to the equivalent machine address. Convert symbolic operands to the equivalent machine address. Okay. So symbolic operands means the operands specified in the instructions. Decide the proper instruction format. Next, convert the data constants to the internal machine operations. So data constants means these are the data constants. Convert the data constants into the internal machine operations. These are called data constants. It will be converted into the equivalent machine code. Write the object program and the assembly listing. So these are the functions of an assembler. So convert symbolic operands to the equivalent machine code. Okay. So the assembler takes two passes. In the first pass, scan the source program for label definitions and assign the addresses. In the first pass, In the first pass, the assembler will scan the source program for label definitions and assign the addresses. So whatever names appear in the label field, they will be taken as symbols, and immediately they are stored in the symbol table. In the second pass, perform actual translation. The assembler takes passes. In the first pass, scan the source program for label definitions and assign addresses. In the second pass, perform actual translation. Okay. So I will explain pass 1 of an assembler. So how the pass 1 of an assembler works. Okay. I will explain the algorithm for pass 1 of an assembler. I will now explain the algorithm for pass 1 of an assembler. Okay. Read first input line. Read the first input line. What is program name is copy. This assembler directive is start and 1000. Okay. Next. Read first input line. Okay. So you need not read this. That is, if opcode equals start, this is opcode, mnemonic opcode field. No? If opcode equals start, what you have to do? If now I am explaining pass 1 algorithm for this assembly language program. Now I am explaining algorithm for pass 1 of an assembler. Now I am explaining the algorithm for pass 1 of an assembler. So for read first input line. Okay, read opcode. If opcode equals start, here opcode is start. If opcode equals start, then save the operand, whatever the operand is there, no, save the operand as the starting address. So read the first line, read the opcode. If opcode equals start, then save whatever the operand specified. Save whatever the operand specified as the starting address of the program. Save this as a starting address of the program. 1000 is the starting address of the program. Initialize location counter to the starting address. Location counter is a variable which keeps track of address of each instruction. Okay, so location counter variable will be initialized with 100,000. Location counter variable LOCCTR, location counter variable will be initialized with 1000. Next, write line to the intermediate file. Write this line to the intermediate file. Next, read next input line. Read next input line. Read next input line. Suppose if the opcode is not start, then 0 is the starting address of the program. If opcode is not start, then 0 is the starting address of the program. Then location counter value will be initialized to 0. Location counter value will be initialized to 0. Now read the next input line. This one. Read the next input line. Read the next input line. Okay. So right. Next. While opcode is not equal to end, go on reading the opcodes. Go on reading the opcodes till the opcode is not equal to end. While opcode is not equal to end, read. Okay. So if this, read the next input line. If this is not a comment line, if this is not a comment line, then if this, read the next input line. If this input line is not a comment line, then what you have to do is you check whether there is a symbol in the label field. Check whether is there any symbol in the label field. So first, symbol first is there in the label field. Symbol first is there in the label field. The corresponding location counter value is 1000. For the symbol first, the corresponding location counter value is 1000. So write 1000 here. For the symbol, corresponding location counter value is 1000. So check if there is a symbol in the label field, then search symbol table for the label. Search symbol table for the label. Search symbol table for the label. So So this is the symbol table that is created for that particular assembly language program. Initially the symbol table is empty. So symbol is not, initially the symbol table is completely empty. No symbol in the label field. No symbol in the label field. No symbol in the label field. Okay. If the symbol is already there in the label field, so then you have to write, you have to set error flag, and you have to uh, right. So you have to set error flag, and you have to indicate the duplicate symbol is there. If the symbol is already there, set error flag and tell that duplicate symbol is there. Otherwise, if the symbol is not there in the symbol table, so insert the symbol, whatever label field that has appeared, this symbol, insert the symbol into the symbol table along with the location counter value. Insert that symbol along with the location counter value 1000. I think you understood. See here, this one. See here. So what we have to do, check whether is there is a symbol is there in the label field, and go to the symbol table, check whether this first symbol is already there. If it is already there, so set the error flag and indicate the duplicate symbol is there. If the symbol is not there in the symbol table, copy this symbol, store this symbol into the symbol table first, along with the location counter value, first 1000. Okay. Next, search for operation code table for the opcode. Read the opcode. Search the operation code table for the opcode. I said the operation code table contains all the executable instructions along with their hexadecimal equivalent number. No, operation code table contains all executable all mnemonic opcodes and their hexadecimal opcodes. Right? Search opcode table for the opcode. Read the opcode. Search operation code table. Read the opcode. Search the operation code table for the opcode. If the opcode is found in the operation code table, then definitely it is a mnemonic opcode. Okay? It is an executable instruction. So increase the right. If this STL is found in the operation code table, then definitely it is an executable instruction. Then every instruction is of length 3. Increment the length 3. This instruction is of length 3. So increment the length 3. 1000 become 1003. 1000 will become 1003. Okay. Next, again, search the label field. Label field has name, right? So next, store this name into the symbol table. C loop in the label field, whatever name in the label field is symbol. Store this symbol into the symbol table along with this location counter value 1003. Second symbol C loop is stored in the symbol table along with the value 1003. So again, this opcode will be read. So machine code table will be searched for this opcode. Definitely this code this mnemonic will be found in the machine code table. Its length 3 is there. So 1003, increment the 3, because length of the instruction is 3. 1003 plus 3 is 1006. And again, this is read of this one, only opcode is there. Read this one. Search machine opcode table for this instruction. So definitely the instruction will be present in the machine opcode table. Length of the instruction is 3. 1003 plus 1006 plus 3, 1009. Again, this instruction is also there in the machine opcode table. So 1009, 1000C, and again like this. So in this way, during pass 1, symbol table will be created. During pass 1, symbol table will be created to store all the symbols along with the location counter values. Okay. Okay. So if the symbol is found in the machine opcode table, increment the length 3. Suppose if the opcode is word, what you have to do? Suppose you are searching this, you are reading this. If the opcode is word, if the opcode is word, then add 3 to the location counter value. If the opcode is a word, then add 3 to the location counter value. Location counter value is previous value plus 3. So previous value of the location counter is 205A. If the opcode is a word, so one word is 3 bytes. So add 3. If the opcode is a word, add 3 to the location counter value. If the opcode is byte, add 1 to the location counter value. If the opcode is a machine language instruction, increment 3 to the location counter value, because 3 is the instruction length of all these instructions is 3. If the opcode is word, update location counter value by increasing by 3. So if the opcode is byte, increment 1 to the location counter value. If the opcode is so if the opcode is word, increment 3 to the location counter value. See here, DEF0. See, so earlier the location counter value is 102D hexadecimal. So the opcode is word. So increment 3 to the location counter value. So to this 102D, increment 3, 102D, 102E, 102F, and 10 like that 1030. Okay. If the opcode is byte, then increment 1 to the location counter value. If the opcode is reserve byte, then you have to add 3 into whatever the value specified, 4096 to the location counter value. So here just see. So location counter value is 1033. Location counter value is 1033. Okay. So if the opcode is reserve word, then you have to add 3. 1 is there. No, 1 into 3. 1 into 3. 3 into 1. 3 into 3 bytes into 1 word. 3 bytes, add 3 into 1. 3 to the location counter value. 1033 plus 3 is 1036. Here also. If the opcode is reserved word, add 3 into 1 equals 3 to the this one. So here the reserve byte. So add how much? 1 into okay. If the opcode is reserve byte, you should add 1 byte into 4096. If the opcode is reserve byte, you have to add 1 into 4096 bytes to get the new location counter value. Okay. Okay. And one more thing is, if the opcode is byte, then find the length of the data area. Find the length of the data area. See, so here so when this instruction is reached, 102A is the location counter value. When this instruction is reached, byte, see this is when this instruction is reached, 102A is the 102A is the location counter value. Okay. So if opcode is byte, then find the length of constant in bytes. So what is the length of the constant? 3 bytes here. 3 characters. No, there are 3 characters. 3 bytes. Find the length of the constant in bytes. This 3 characters. Add length to location counter. So 102A. So 102b, 102c, 102d. This add 3 to 102a because 3 characters are there. If opcode equals byte, then find the length of the constant in bytes. Add that length, 3 characters, no, 3 here as length to location counter. Okay, and after that, whatever line that has read, write the line to the intermediate file. Okay, every line that is translated during pass1 is placed into intermediate file. Remember, every line that is translated by pass1 of an assembler will be written into the intermediate file. Write line to the intermediate file. Read the next input line. Okay, so this will be continued. Okay, so lastly, so we have to find the length of the program. How to find the length of the program is the location counter value at the end. When the end of the program is reached, location counter value, that is the value that is when the end of the program is reached, whatever location counter value. Okay, and this 2079 is the location counter value when the end of the program is reached. Okay, you subtract this value, location counter value, which is obtained at the end, with the 2079 minus starting address 1000. 2079 is the location counter value that is obtained at the end. Okay, minus starting address of the program 1000. 2079 minus 1000 hexadecimal subtraction you have to do. That is the program length. Save the program length. Save location counter value at the end minus starting address as the program length. Save location counter value minus starting address as the program length. This is the pass1 of an assembler. I have explained the algorithm by taking this assembly language program as an example. I have explained this pass1 algorithm by taking this assembly language program as an example. Okay, so this completes data structures required in used in pass1 of an assembler, and the complete algorithm for pass1 of an assembler. So 3 data structures are used. So first one is symbol table called symtab. Okay, SYMTAB. Second data structure is operation code table called optab, and third data structure is a variable location counter value, LOCCTR, location counter value, to keep track of the address of each instruction. Next, I have explained in detail the pass1 of an assembler. In the exam, you will be asked to write and explain the algorithm for pass1 of an assembler. In the examination, you will be asked to write the pass1, write and explain the pass1 of an algorithm for pass1 of an assembler. The question will be like this. Write the algorithm for pass1 of an assembler. Okay, sometimes you will be asked to explain also. Okay, sometimes you will be asked to explain the data structures of pass1 of an assembler, pass1 and pass2 of an assembler. Another possible question is explain the data structures required in pass1 of an assembler. So you have to explain the symbol table and machine opcode table. Okay, so this completes algorithm for pass1 of an assembler. So I will stop here. So I will continue in the next class with pass2 of an assembler. Okay. Thank you. Okay.